We are the ones who don't know what we're fighting for. Give us a gun and send us all off to war. We are the ones who grow up in violent homes. We are the ones who don't know what's right or wrong. I know. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No more. We are the ones who don't know why we're losing score. Give them a badge so they could send us to the morgue. We are the ones who are scared to walk out the door. We are the ones who don't know what we're dying for. I know. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No. Get off his fucking neck. That makes you know. He can't fucking breathe. That makes you know. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of ImNoJoe, your home for all things combat sports and the place where every armchair quarterback can feel like Ben Bronco. The views and opinions presented on the ImNoJoe channel belong solely to the person expressing them, no one else. If we say it, that means we meant it. That being said, this show does contain adult themes, adult content, and general shit that you shouldn't be letting your kids intake. Be advised, viewer discretion is recommended. Proceed at your own risk. You've been warned. Where are we? What are we doing? Oh, yeah. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate age, to the latest episode of the ImNoJoe podcast, the show where every armchair quarterback can feel like, what's that guy's name? He's the thing, and he's the God, a twist. Eddie Bravo. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the special 420 episode of the ImNoJoe podcast. Today, as like most days, I have got a glorious panel here with me to break down the shit talking and shenanigan and all the fuckery and fight announcements that have come down the pipe since we saw you folks last, and get into all the fun we have got in store for this weekend. But before we get into all of that ridiculous, gentlemen, how the fuck are you doing this evening?
Yeah, hell of a lot better if I wasn't home tonight. Rather be dealing with phone herpes again.
Right.
I'm doing pretty fucking awesome myself. Obviously, 420, been enjoying the fuck out of that since I got home from work. Taking many a dab and bong rip. Gonna be a nice fucking weekend too. Got Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. Fuck the hangover fights.
Yeah, I agree. There's at least some interesting things in line for this weekend. But before we get into all of this weekend's fun and fuckery, first and foremost, that's a lot of apps. Like we like to do around here to kick things off, get into a little bit of news and recent events. Now, one thing I try to make a point of, at least for this season, is we are not doing recap shows. If fun stuff happens live, you will see a live YouTube Shorts video about it for the most part, unless we are literally just too oh shit caught in the moment like we were for the finale. But this being one of the few exceptions where we get an interesting chance to compare apples to apples as opposed to apples to oranges, as it were. Here we've got the released list of the Athletic Commission's suspensions of the medical variety from last week's UFC Kansas City event. There are 3 categories of suspensions. There are 30 days, there are 45 days, and there are 60-day medical suspensions. So the 45 days, Lando Venata, Piero Rodriguez, Clay Guida, Tanner Boser. Pretty understandable. The 60 days, Billy Q, absolutely. Matthias Nicolau, understandably, and Ed Herman, understandably. Everybody else suspended for 30 days as a bare minimum just for basic medical clearances. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how an athletic commission should handle an evening of fights. There were several knockouts, and pretty much everybody who got knocked out or severely handled got themselves a 60-day suspension. And I should clarify, both the 45 and the 60-day suspensions are suspensions with at least 30 days no physical contact required. So everybody gets a bare minimum of 30 days with no contact involved. Take a month off, heal, regardless of how banged up you got. I'm a big fucking fan of the commission's doing it that way. I think it makes a lot more fucking sense than people getting indefinite suspensions who didn't even get knockouts and some of the weird shit we've seen recently.
Oh yeah, all of them fitting, not overhanded there. I'm just glad we didn't see any of the indefinite until cleared by a doctor bullshit, because there are some of those fucking commissions that get slap happy with that shit.
Yeah, there were a couple of those fights that some of those commissions would have had a field day with for damn sure.
Oh, good God, yeah. I'm sure Max would have got slapped with one, so would Arnold Allen, because those guys.
Or Ed Herman. Yeah, Ed Herman and Tanner wouldn't have fucking, if Ed Herman and Zach Cummings wouldn't have retired, neither one of them would be able to fucking fight ever again with the fucking commissions we've seen lately.
Good God, yeah.
But nice to see that the Missouri State Athletic Commission stepped up, used intelligence, common sense, and logical rationale based on medical facts to issue the suspension list. So we've got something to compare head to head with some of the stupid shit that we complain about, so that we have something to look back to when we, I'm sure, in the fairly near future, end up with some ridiculous medical suspensions to talk about. We at least have a shining beacon to look back to what they should be doing. Now, that being said, the other thing that I will mention real quick about last weekend's UFC Kansas City card, we had a swing and a miss after a victory, which is kind of a rare thing these days, but it makes a little bit more sense in hindsight now that we've got more of the full story here. For those of you who might have missed it, Bill Algeo put on a hell of a fucking fight and then just proceeded to step all over his dick when they put the microphone in front of him in his post-fight press speech. coming off like a genuine dollar store Colby Covington. It probably would have helped him greatly to at least make some kind of a declaration or a preface to his little spiel that he did about the fact that he is a born and raised Philadelphia Eagles fan from Pennsylvania in the Philly area his whole life, instead of just showing up to Kansas City and then talking some very Covington-esque middle school kind of bullshit about the Kansas City, making generalized fucking statements to just seem like a dick. It didn't come off very well. As someone who was in the crowd, that didn't win him any goddamn favor.
You know, I think at a bare minimum, he could have just said "fuck the Chiefs" and been done with it right there.
Yeah, anything involving the Chiefs probably would have tied that together a lot more, because in the moment we were all like,
I was like, what the fuck is he doing?
What?
I was like, it was stupid sitting there watching it live and listening to him go just off on Kansas City and what a shithole it is. I'm going, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
I was
I'm
like,
not even from Kansas City, and I was like, fuck you.
I'm like,
because I am from Kansas City, I'm glad I was going to get me a couple of fucking drinks while his bitch ass was doing that.
just saying,
Y'all
like,
have been sitting there the rest of the night saying, fuck that Bill Ells, you old piece of shit. You're talking shit.
I'm not from Kansas. I'm not from fucking Missouri. So it doesn't fucking phase me one way or another, but it was just off-putting as both a fan and the way he did it. If he would have said "fuck the Chiefs" and then went into it, sure, right. Okay, I get it, because you're dogging on a specific team, and that's
or open with "Fly Eagles Fly" or like EAGLES something, so that it made sense instead of just "fuck Kansas City's a shithole, ain't it?" Like,
nobody finds out until the post-fight press conference where he clarifies it with them. Like, I guess if you're really looking to rile the crowd up, you did a good fucking job on that, because
that he did.
There was a lot of pissed off people. You could hear it.
Yes, sir.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to cheer for the Chiefs anytime soon. I can tell you that. But I'm also not going to go stand in a fucking stadium full of people and say, fuck the city you're from. Because I don't care about your city. I just hate your football team. And if that's how I feel about it, that's what I would have done. Now, I'm not saying I hate the fucking Chiefs right now. I want to make that very clear, because I don't have any hatred towards them. But if I was in Chicago, then I might just say, fuck the Bears. And in that case, I would actually mean it. But still, in his case, he screwed the pooch there. He had a golden fucking opportunity after a hell of a great performance to really do something on the mic in the octagon. If he wanted to berate Kansas City, the best time would have been in the post-fight press conference in the fucking back, not up front, because it really, he shortchanged himself a lot there, because he could have made a great fucking call out and screwed the pooch on that one.
Yeah, I agree. After a great fucking win, he really did take all the wind out of his own fucking sails with that dumb shit. So, not everybody is built for post-fight commentary, I guess would be the way to look at it. So fuck Bill Algeo, but moving on. That being said, we did get one set of weigh-ins today for this weekend's crazy Hawaii Bellator cards going off. And boy, does Bellator know how to shit their own bed when the chips are down and they've got the opportunity to get a spotlight. Because, for one, Deanna Bennett has done less to earn herself a shot at this title than Liz Carmouche did to secure said title she would be fighting for. But as if that wasn't bad enough, when Liz Carmouche and Deanna Bennett fought the first time, Deanna Bennett missed weight by, I believe, 7 pounds. So in doing largely nothing since then in 2020, now here we are in 2023, magically for no discernible fucking reason, Deanna Bennett is getting another shot at the belt, having defeated 0 contenders to earn that spot. And then in showing up to the weigh-ins today, not once, not twice, but 3 fucking times Deanna Bennett showed up to weigh in for her title fight this weekend. and missed weight every fucking time. So, needless to say, she's automatically forfeiting a part of her purse and is no longer eligible to win the belt. The other half of that thing that just makes no fucking sense to me is that they let Liz Carmouche make the decision that she is still going to keep the belt on the line, meaning that if by some stretch of the imagination Liz Carmouche loses to Deanna Bennett tomorrow night, the belt becomes vacant because Deanna's not eligible to win it. So Liz can still lose the belt, even though she had the option to keep this match on the table as an exhibition match since her opponent didn't make weight and leave the belt in her possession, regardless of the outcome. She chose somehow to leave the belt on the line. So at this point, I almost have to hope that Deanna Bennett can do the fucking impossible and beat Liz Carmouche in Hawaii just to put that fucking belt back into vacant status and show Bellator how stupid of a fucking move that was. But wait, it gets even better. Deanna wasn't even the only one to miss weight for this card. No. We had an entire fight miss weight by almost an entire other division. Chris Lencioni, who some of us have ridiculed since he was an in-professional fuckstick on Submission Underground 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, and then tried his hand at some minor MMA, looked like a fucking clown then, but supposedly, I say with very, very strong air quotes, got his shit together. Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Because the scale doesn't think so, fella, because Lencioni, this fucking clown, came in this afternoon at 6.5 pounds over on his second attempt. But it's okay because his fucking opponent came in at 1.7 pounds over on his second attempt. So they're going to go ahead and keep the fight as a catch weight for the next division up. And both of these fucking idiots get the exact same fucking treatment because they both missed weight. So make it make sense, Scott Coker. Make it make sense. Fucking Bellator, man. Every time they've got a chance to do something good, they do some stupid shit like this. So that being said, it has been a fairly slow news week as far as like actual news and fight announcements go. But I will say the ones that we've gotten this week look pretty fucking promising, in my opinion. So kicking it off from the top here. The first one that we've got to talk about, we have to talk about because we were originally going to be talking about it later on in this week's breakdown, but alas, no such luck because Song Yadong versus Ricky Simone is no longer on this weekend's card. No, it has officially been moved to next weekend's UFC Vegas 72 as the main event. It sucks that we don't get to see it this weekend because I am still excited about that fight. But knowing that it's going to next weekend to be a 5-round main event and get that much more spotlight on what should be a really good fight, of the reasons you could have that fight moved, I think that's the one I'm most okay with.
Yeah, kind of a toss-up. Do I think it's main event worthy? Not really, but on the other side of that, the fight itself, I was very much looking forward to it, and it could have been a hell of a banger where it was at on this week. But I guess when you're doing this many cards a fucking year, you have to cut corners sometimes, and well, now we know what we're getting left with next weekend, which
Right.
fine by me because I've got shit to do next weekend.
Right, yeah, I will say this, between what's left of this weekend's card and what they're building towards next weekend makes me feel real good about the card that we got to see in Kansas City. Yeah, of the fights they could have moved and shifted around, I'm glad they left Kansas City the way that it was, and they're making these other fucking moves, because we got to see a hell of a fucking card live last weekend. I did finally, for the record, for those of you, I know I had a couple people ask me, I did finally get all of the videos and pictures and whatnot from the Kansas City expedition to UFC downloaded from my phone. I think last count I had 79 videos or something like that. I got pretty much everybody's walk-in. I got all the buffer announcements. I got all of the end decisions. I got a bunch of cool little in-between videos and some fucking scenarios and different cool shots and shit. So I'm in the process of putting all those together. I'm going to try and make it into one nice little collective time-lapse-ish kind of video of our evening in Kansas City at the event. That's going to be at least a week or so before I get that all put together and edited, because like I said, there's a fucking lot there, but everything's in 4K. Everything is fucking 60 frames per second. Everything is crystal fucking clear. I had people sitting behind us giving me fucking props on how clean and close my phone was zooming in during the event. So I promise you the footage is good and it will be worth the wait. I won't make you guys wait too long, but that for those of you that were asking, that is going to be a little bit later. That's a whole separate project. That being said, back to the fight announcements here. 288 in New Jersey. God knows that fucking card needs lots of fucking help. At least one of the fights that was in jeopardy has been salvaged, and I would dare say maybe even saved. With Jonathan Pierce out, the whole fight with Bryce Mitchell was up in the air. Luckily, though, last minute step in, Movsar Evloyev has stepped in and will now be facing Bryce Mitchell at 288 in New Jersey. And I think that's a pretty good fucking matchup, maybe even better than the original matchup. The only thing that I can see coming out of this to make it even better is if Evloyev beats Bryce Mitchell and then calls out the Nate train, because Landwehr's been screaming for that fight for like a year and a half now. So Evloyev can take care of Mitchell and then call out Nate, because Nate's been calling him out, and then the UFC can make that one, and then everybody can be happy, except the Bryce Mitchell fans, but they're flat earthers, so it doesn't really matter. That being said, though, Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush is officially off. Charles Oliveira is hurt and has officially had to pull out. The good news, though, is that literally as of an hour and a half ago now, confirmed by multiple sources, we have a replacement co-main event. What will now be a 5-round non-title fight co-main event. Stepping in for Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush will be Gilbert Burns versus Bilal Muhammad at 170 pounds. Despite Muhammad trying to get the fight up to light heavyweights, which tells you a lot about where he's cutting from to make this fight happen, Gilbert said, no, fuck that. We belong in the fucking welterweight division. We're trying to get a welterweight title shot. We're both at the top. Let's do it at 170. If you can't be ready, don't sign the fucking contract. Well, names are done. I's are dotted, T's are crossed. We will see those gentlemen in just a few weeks in a 5-round co-main event, which we don't get very often. This is one of those situations, though. Short notice, thrown together fight, serious divisional implications. Make it 5 rounds. I'm okay with that. Now, that being said, history is officially set to be made this summer. May 3rd, the Invicta 53 event will be taking place with the first ever major MMA promotions all-female commentary crew. Megan Anderson stepping in to give them a hand as one of the fighters helping to do color commentary. I know that this might not seem like a big deal to a lot of folks, but this is something that they have been striving for, and part of the reason it's such a big deal when Laura Sanko got to sit in on the desk with the UFC and do commentary multiple times now on a major broadcast rather. Now we've got the first major promotions full female commentary crew, and it's nice to see, because I'm willing to bet every penny I have that commentary is still going to be better than anything DC has ever fucking done. So get it, fucking girls. Nice to see Invicta putting a full ladies crew on the commentary team. Fucking get it. Stepping in after that, May 5th in Sunrise, Florida, we will see the Game Bred Bare Knuckle MMA event coming back to it with a very interesting high-profile fight just getting added this afternoon. Big Country himself is getting back after it. Roy Nelson is stepping in to do some bare knuckle MMA under the Game Bred banner against Dylan Kleckler. So for those of you not familiar, Dylan Kleckler has spent the past, I will say 2, maybe 3 years at this point, primarily doing bare knuckle boxing, which he's not the worst at. He's far from the greatest, but he's not the worst at. But at least he's got a decent chin and a gas tank when he needs it. Whereas old Roy was never really known for his chin. And unfortunately, contrary to popular belief, that belly was not a gas tank. So I'm very curious to see how this one plays out. It sure seems like this Game Bred bare knuckle MMA is stacking up to be a big disappointment compared to the Game Bred boxing event that they just put on not that long ago. Actually, that being said, I had to miss one while I was doing notes earlier, but it is that time, so we are hitting another 420 in another time zone, and I would feel remiss if I let them celebrate alone. So,
well, you get yourself ready there. I'll have to say I have to give them a small bit of leeway because this is only their second event.
yes, this will be the second.
So,
Game bare knuckle.
being as it's a growing thing to do bare knuckle MMA, and not only that, but it's sanctioned. So it's the first time bare knuckle MMA has actually been officially sanctioned.
Yes,
which is fucking fantastic. But I'd be remiss to not give them some sort of leeway because you're dealing with something that's new. Most people that look at MMA think 4-ounce gloves. Perfect. But now you've got this other thing that's coming in that's becoming sanctioned. And sure, it's only going to start sanctioned in a couple states like Florida. Where else are they doing this shit? Wyoming, shit like that. Eventually, it'll grow. And along with that growth, he'll eventually get better fighters. Not old, retired, haven't fought in 4 or 5 years fighters, which is fine. It's a big name, so it's going to be a money draw for them, which in turn brings them more money to pay bigger name fighters to continue to grow. So it's kind of a...
And to be fair, it's a fairly even matchup because, like I said, Dylan Kleckler's not the worst in the world, but he is by no stretch of the imagination any kind of a world breaker, somebody that Big Country's going to have to really worry about. Skill-wise and ability-wise at this point, I feel it's actually a fairly decent matchup for what they're working with.
I think it will be, only because the fight starts on the feet. But if that fight gets to the ground, Big Country's going to have him tooth and nail because he's got a hell of a jiu-jitsu game. Yeah, and for a big fat guy, he's pretty goddamn agile. Or at least he was. I don't know how he is now, this many years separated, but I'm guessing he's still been doing jiu-jitsu and things like that because most fighters don't give that stuff up. They still do it, even if it is just as recreationally.
Well, and I think he's done 2 flow grappling events still since he's been released / retired unofficially these last few years. So he hasn't stepped completely out of the training and the competition realm, just out of the main spotlight, so to speak, I guess would be the way to put it. So
yeah,
I'm still interested. I'm interested enough that I wanted to make a point to mention it here on the fucking show. I'll pay attention to at least that fight on that card, depending on how they build the rest of it. That being said, back into the world of credible MMA, We did get kind of an interesting announcement here. I will say, at least I was taken a little off guard by it. I had heard from several fairly reputable sources over the last couple of weeks that the UFC was trying to go in a very, very different direction for both of these ladies. But we did get the confirmation today. It is official. As of May 20th, the UFC Vegas 73 event getting back to the Apex. The main event will be Raquel Pennington versus Irene Aldana. Irene Aldana was literally just in conversations to fight Amanda for the belt before this seemingly out of nowhere Pena 3 announcement popped up not that long ago. Even Pena herself said that the UFC was told her they were actively working on Amanda versus Irene for the belt, and apparently she threw a hissy fit and pushed Irene to the side, but we all kind of expect how this one's going to go, and then we won't have to worry about that. So and to be fair, on the same side of that, Raquel was, in my opinion, probably going to be fighting Pena if they made that Irene Aldana versus Amanda Nunes fight. The next logical thing would have been to make Pennington versus Pena, because Pennington is on another fucking run herself here and doing a damn good job at it. This kind of feels like Pena strong-armed her way back into the trilogy, because we all know how that's going to end. And then it really left both of these two ladies kind of holding the bag, stuck in the air, however you want to put it. So it's nice to see that they're not going to leave both of them sitting on the shelf. They're going to let these ladies fight each other rather, as the main event in the Apex, which will answer that question: who steps up next when Nunes Pena, the trilogy, is finished? This will be the definitive answer to that question, in my opinion. Maybe not the best main event, but the fact that they're doing it on a smaller fight night back at the Apex makes it make a little more sense, in my opinion. Now, the next one that we got to talk about here real quick is kind of interesting, because it's a move that a lot of us have suspected for a while, because there's been murmurs, but nothing confirmed. Well, it is fucking confirmed now. Chris Daukaus is officially moving down to light heavyweight. He is making his 205 debut in Vancouver, June 10th at UFC 289 against no fucking easy task in Khalil Roundtree. So let me put the asterisks on that. So long as the Khalil Roundtree we have seen most recently shows back up, this is going to be a very hard night for Chris Daukaus. If Mr. Hot and Cold Khalil Roundtree reemerges, I guess would be the best way to put that, Chris has a decent chance to making his debut at light heavyweight. Pretty fucking interesting. But if even a percentage of that Thai style reemergent Khalil Roundtree we've seen lately shows up, boy, Daukaus better eat his goddamn Wheaties, because this is going to be a hard fucking fight, man. The fact that they're putting it on the pay-per-view in Canada, I'm not mad. We've been talking about how much that card needs some milk for damn sure. This ain't going to be the savior, but it is going to fucking help. So, very interesting fight, in my opinion.
You know, I'm actually really glad he's moving down a weight class, because he was underweight for fucking heavyweight, which...
he's a heavyweight tweener, which is a weird thing to even say.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of goes along with that whole... I'm sure everybody's seen it already, but that whole fucking Errol Hawani and fucking Mighty Mouse having a conversation about John Jones. And Mighty Mouse thinks John Jones could have managed it at 205 at heavyweight. I don't think that's the fucking case.
I don't either.
I like his thought process behind it. Made sense. But it's the same thing with the guy who's goes and fights heavyweight. Even the Stipe's, because Stipe is kind of a small guy for a fucking heavyweight. Don't get me wrong, there's no way that Stipe would ever make 205, in my fucking opinion. At least not healthy.
Not healthy. Yeah, I was gonna say not in a healthy way.
Dawkins, on the other hand, I can see making light heavyweight the healthy way. Yeah. And I think to be honest, he was on a good tear at heavyweight for a minute. But then he ran into those upper echelon guys that are walking around north of fucking 290 and cutting to 265. And there is a big difference there. Now him going to be dropping down to 205. That's a fucking huge play for a couple reasons. One, he's going to be that guy that walks around north of 235 and is cutting weight during his whole camp, maybe cutting 5-10 pounds in the last week. So he's going to be the bigger, more stronger guys at fucking 205. Now, is the speed going to translate? Not necessarily, but his knockout power that we know he has, yeah, that's definitely going to translate to 205. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out for him.
Yeah, I'm curious, but I think it's only going to benefit him because he's like we said, it's a weird thing to have a in-betweener when you're talking about heavyweights, but he's one of those dudes that even on his bigger days, he was not coming in anywhere close to the same size the guys that he was fighting. And like TJ said, that works great when you're in them unranked, when you're in the lower side of the top 15, but when you start climbing up towards the dudes that it really makes a difference, that it really matters, that you have to win and you're just getting steamrolled. I think this is a smart move. So we'll see once we get to Vancouver how it actually shakes loose, because Khalil can be a motherfucker, but he can also shit the bed real easy. So we'll see how it turns out. We did get one interesting recap, I guess it would be, from this past weekend that we really didn't get any news coverage over. Anderson Silva's son, Gabriel, made his professional boxing debut and officially got himself a win to kick off his pro boxing career. Now, for posterity's sake, I do have to say the gentleman that he got his professional boxing debut over is now 0-7, having caught that L from Gabriel Silva. So it's not like he was necessarily in much trouble to begin with. But that being said, it still did go to the judge's decision, and he did get a unanimous decision. So if nothing else, he had to fight the whole damn fight for his first fight out as a pro. And again, experience at this point. He's literally making his debut. So experience is more valuable than anything. So going the distance, your first time out there as a pro, not a bad way to do it. So good on him. It's going to be interesting to see how his career goes, because Anderson is just 100% the biggest fucking cheerleader in the world right now for him, and that's kind of cool to see. On the other side of that's kind of cool to see, a little bit of lately served humble pie being dished out this week, specifically this afternoon, primarily, in the form of bad news from Patty the Batty himself. Turns out, despite him trying to downplay it very, very strongly, turns out that his ankle was completely fucked after that Jared Gordon fight, to the extent that once the swelling went down and he actually met with his surgeon, they basically had to completely reconstruct his ankle, both upper and lower. And best case scenario, if everything heals properly and goes the way that they hope it will, he quote unquote might be able to make his return at the very last card of 2023. But realistically speaking, he probably isn't going to be getting back into the octagon until the summer of 2024, if we're looking at things objectively. And that's not a dude you want to rush back on a potentially not completely healed ankle like that. So my guess is we're probably not going to see Patty this year.
No, because was it like another 12 weeks that he's looking at
Bare minimum
rehab, or just trying to get it so where he can put weight on it. So
yeah,
it's going to be a minute before we see him again.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be best case scenario the end card of 2023. Realistically, probably not till summer 2024 until we see Patty again. On the other side of things, though, a gentleman that we're not likely to see again anytime soon, recently released UFC veteran Carl Roberson, ironically named, has officially been arrested for jewel theft. Apparently, he and one other individual broke into a private residence via jimmying the back door on camera, both leading up to and inside the house, where they stole approximately $250,000 worth of jewelry from the safe that they knew exactly where it was, how to get to, and how to get into. The videos were then turned in when the obvious report was filed with the police, and they identified Roberson's fucking car on multiple videos and then arrested him and his accomplice shortly after. I gotta say, this is not even the first time that a UFC veteran has been tied up in some sort of a robbery scheme, but this one is definitely looking like it might be one of the dumber ones. From all the reports that I was reading, there are essentially a full-on detailed video following them up to going into the house, throughout the house, back out of the house, and then to Carl's car, which they then identified almost immediately and found him in with things from the robbery. So there's not much hope for some people, and it seems like Carl might be on that fucking list. I think that gentleman is going away for a long time.
You know, you want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, oh, it's things like CTE, but CTE doesn't necessarily equate to robbery. It's usually when you see other dumb shit where it equates to stuff like that, but not robbery. It's usually you beat somebody that you shouldn't have, or things like that.
Generally violence related, but not this type of violence related. Yeah.
Yeah, especially not when you know you've obviously cased the place enough to know exactly where everything is, get what you're looking for, and get the fuck out.
Yeah, and apparently, according to at least one of the reports that I was reading, they caught them using text messages between Carl and the other gentleman involved, where they were talking about some of the specific items that they had taken in text message and how they were going to get rid of them and what they thought they might get for these items. You know, literally discussing the crime that they had committed openly in unsecured text chats.
Born retarded, can't fix it.
Some people, I tell you.
But
some people.
That was a small enough heist where he is still not going to be the man known for the largest heist in UFC history.
Exactly. You would think at this point, anybody who was in the UFC would know that there's big numbers if you're trying to take that record, and $250,000 in jewels ain't gonna get you there. Sorry, fella.
That ain't it, son. That ain't it. You gotta rob a bank.
Tack another zero on that bitch and get a way bigger following. But that being said, unfortunately, once again, that brings us to the point where I end my news segment, and another week has gone by where Dana White has yet to be held accountable or face any actual punishment for openly slapping his wife on New Year's Eve down in Mexico. Now, I will say, this almost got chucked at his fucking head, and I could see where he was fucking sitting. He was close enough. I could have fucking self-restraint, though. Self-restraint. There were several thoughts of evil deeds in our fucking section with him there, because we could see that son of a bitch clear as day, and the gleam coming off his bald fucking head as he looked through his phone for most of the fucking evening. And you'll see, because I got several videos of him doing just that during fights. Motherfucker.
I almost did it during the ceremonial weigh-ins.
That motherfucker. But that being said, do either one of you gentlemen have any news that I might have missed this week?
News. Last week was awesome. You should have been there.
I completely agree with that. But two fights that I'm at least excited for, fucking middleweight fights. Chris Curtis getting back in there pretty fucking quick. They signed him up against Nasruddin Imavov on that June fucking pay-per-view, right? And then Dana White fucking announced this fight earlier today, along with the Gilbert Burns and Bilal Muhammad. I'm excited for it just because I'm a Marvin Vettori fan, facing Jared Cannonier in June. So that's going to be a fun fucking main event.
Interesting.
That one will be solid. Yeah, they did that on their fucking their breaking news whatever today.
Yeah, breaking news, 2 fights. And then I'm going to tell you about shit that you've known for weeks.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I take that back. I will say I did see earlier. I can't remember the fucking date off the top of my head now, but they did confirm that the UFC is going back to London again. I think the last weekend in July, like for
Yep.
a fight night after International Fight Week. So
Yeah.
and now we know with Patty on the sideline for sure.
They also said they're going back to Canada too. Which that's good because Canada's got a good fucking crowd, man.
They
really
do, and they've kind of gotten shortchanged during this whole fucking pandemic as well. So I'm definitely down to see them stick around closer to North America, where we've got the majority of the fighters that they use, so they can get more fighters that people will recognize. Hopefully, anyway. But that being said, that'll bring us to the point where once in a while, sometimes us old farts that have been watching fights for a long time can get stuck in our ways. And unfortunately, when you get stuck in your ways, sometimes you inadvertently develop these blinders and you just watch what you're used to, how you're used to watching it, when you're used to watching it. And unfortunately, doing that will get you what you like, but it will also cause you to miss the whole next generation of fighters that are up and coming because you're so stuck in your ways. Luckily for us, though, we have ourselves a bona fide young person here on the I'm No Joe podcast to keep us old farts from missing out on all the fun coming up until it's too fucking late in a little segment that we like to refer to as Slows, Cans, and Contenders.
All right. Well, I feel like this week was easy for me. I feel like you guys will agree, but I'll, ask away at the end what your guys' fucking picks are. So, in the cans for me this week, gotta go with Muhammad Usman to start it off. The guy showed absolutely no skill as a fighter whatsoever, in my opinion, through the entire season of The Ultimate Fighter last year. He got a lucky shot. Like, it was an interesting knockout to see, and it apparently scared the holy living shit out of Dana White. He actually thought Zach Palgo was going to die or whatever, was trying to rush medical staff in there and get him fucking shipped out. They're like, we got to get this guy out of here. This one looks bad. And then he got up a minute later. Way to go, numbnuts. But Muhammad Usman, he's just no striking. You're a heavyweight. You've got the size and whatnot. He's just got the name. And we've seen Kamaru in his last couple fights. He's on the tail end of his career at this point. I mean, it wasn't a fluke that Leon got that fucking knockout on him after pretty much dominating him a month or so ago in their second fight. So, Moe's to start. Absolute can, and we'll touch on his opponent in the next segment. Yeah, I got Norma Dumont in the cans this week too. Only 2 finishes in her career out of 10 professional fights. It's not that she's got a bad record. It's just, again, don't think she's got a lot of skill. And I'm that kind of guy, whether it's a submission or a knockout, I want to see the excitement. I want to see the finishes. If it's not going to a finish, I want to see an all-out war. I want to see a fight. Not what we saw quite a bit in some fights at UFC Kansas City last weekend. We saw a lot of hugging, a lot of dick riding up against the fence, and a lot of I'm going to get you down on the ground and just try to hold you here, and let's give you a bear hug because I don't want to fight. No, I can't stand that shit. Norma Dumont, Carol Rosa, I think that's going to be a boring ass fight in general, but it's Norma Dumont's side of things that's going to make that a boring sleeper fight. All right. And then I got Brogan Walker, another lady. Not trying to disrespect the ladies this week, but my biggest thing is what we saw out of Juliana Miller in her debut when the UFC was just in London back in March. Brogan Walker was finished by Juliana Miller on the finale of The Ultimate Fighter last year. That sticks in my brain pretty hard. Brogan has fought other ladies that are now currently in the UFC. She's fought that level of talent. It's never gone well for another chick that just can't get finishes. She only gets decision wins. And she's got a tough matchup. I mean, Yasmin Lucindo, the 21-year-old young lady that we saw making her debut against another Yasmin Yaregi, who we've also seen another time in the UFC, looks fantastic. Can't wait to see again, right? I think Brogan's going to look awful. Well, there's 3 cans this week, Muhammad Usman and the 2 ladies. Not throwing shade on the ladies, just the honesty. The worst fighters on this card. The contenders, I got a fight in general. Francis Marshall versus William Gomi. I think both of these kids have serious potential. One of them's going to take the loss. But I mean, Francis Marshall's 24 years old, undefeated at 7-0. He's more of the grappler, 4 submission finishes. But we saw him get a knockout in his debut against Marcelo Rojo. The kid looked impressive in his debut. I'm excited, but he's got a hell of a test. William Gomi, a year older, 25, but he's got a lot more experience. 11-2, and he's looked good, not just in the UFC, but in general. I mean, the kid's only got 7 finishes, 6 of them by knockout, technical knockout. He's got 6 of those 7 finishes in his last 9 fights. And he's riding that 9-fight winning streak out of those 9 fights. A lot of fucking fun statistics there. Obviously, he beat Jarno Aarons in his UFC debut. So both of these kids coming in and making their second appearance. One of them's going to take the loss, but they still got a chance to bounce back. I'm throwing them both in the contenders. And I got Junior Tafa. Like I said, I mentioned the opposite of Muhammad Usman. I'm putting Junior Tafa, the younger brother of Justin Tafa, in the contenders. This guy's only had 4 fights professionally, but all of them have come by knockout. His last fight was for Ryzen, so that's something that I took as a little bit of respect. He's fought for Brave FC, and the last fight he had was for Ryzen. So we're stepping up a bit, obviously, in competition, but I still don't think Muhammad Usman's a great fighter. It's going to make this kid look good, but I also think the younger brother, Junior Tafa, he's got serious potential. I'd love to see what he's got in the heavyweight division. He's definitely going to look good this weekend, but I can't wait to see what he's got after the fact. So we're going to throw him in the contenders. Look forward to Junior Tafa and his career, just like his older brother Justin, the exciting-ass fighter. I got Yasmin Lucindo, mentioned earlier. Obviously 21 years old. He already has 18 fights as a professional. Has some losses, 13-5, but looked fantastic in her debut against Yasmin Jaregi. That was an all-out back-and-forth war. It was unbelievably impressive to see the striking capabilities from 2 young ladies in the strawweight division. I mean, at this point, that's the thing, in my opinion, that makes strawweight the most exciting ladies division. From top to bottom, you have actual good fighters. You can have exciting fights, and you can see all-out wars from women instead of slap fights or the hugging matches. So look out for Lucindo again this weekend and making her second appearance. And then Brady Highstand as well, making his second appearance in the UFC. He got a tough test. Dana Batgrial is an explosive fighter. He's kind of back and forth. We've seen him, win some and lose some. But when he's on, he's got some scary potential in that bantamweight division. And Brady Highstand didn't look the greatest in his debut. He definitely looked like he had a lacking of experience. It also had some rust coming off, tearing his ACL and everything, having a long layoff. So it's nice to see him getting back in there after, just few months, handful of months since making his debut. Not a lot of times passed this time. Let's see if the kid can take on the tough test. It'll definitely be impressive, even if it's a tough fight for him, if he gets the win this weekend. And if he gets the win, he's a full-on contender. But he's still 23 years old, 6-2 record, takes a loss against a tough veteran. Nothing to worry about. He's still got a chance to bounce back. Kid's got some potential. Looking out for him. So, as always, to finish it off, what do you brothers got? What's your cans and contenders for this weekend's card? I know there's not a lot to choose from on the contender side, but
My one contender is actually the one you knocked right off at the end there. I'm actually excited to see what Brady Heisman does, because coming off of the knee injury where he went into a fight and the final fight in the Ultimate Fighter House with an already known blown out fucking knee. And coming back off the recovery of that, yeah, he looked a little rough, but that's also getting your feet under you after a fucking major injury. Knee injuries, especially in ACL, is a fucking gnarly thing to come back from. I think we're going to see a much improved version of him. He's not in the clear by any means with this weekend's matchup. I think it's a great matchup for him to see where he is, both physically and then mentally, now that whatever little bit of ring rust he had should be gone at this point. It should be back to his flow, and we'll be able to actually get a good solid base of where his base is. Don't get me wrong. Overall, in the Ultimate Fighter House, he looked fantastic as far as what the Ultimate Fighter is. A bunch of guys that are young trying to get there. He looked good in that sense. So
yeah, even though Ricky Tercios beat him in the finale, I still feel like he will be the better prospect at the end of the day.
I'm in that same category.
Them already, I think High Stand is the better fighter. If they fought again, it would be different. I feel like Tercios really only won because, like you said, he was fighting on the blown out fucking.
Well, yeah, because if anybody remembers, he went and talked to the doc to say, "Hey, can I fight or can I not?" And he ended up doing it, even though, to be honest, he could have easily said, "You know what, I'm fucking injured, I can't do it." But he knew there was a spot on that line that said, "Hey, this might be my only shot at it." Luckily enough, they were gracious enough to get him in and get him another fight. And, well, it's paid dividends for him, because now here we have him again. But then, on the flip side of that, I am 100% on board with Muhammad Usman. That dude is an absolute piece of trash, riding on his brother's coattails. And to be honest, we've seen this a lot with fucking siblings in the UFC. One sibling is pretty goddamn good or pretty solid, and their brother is absolute fucking garbage. A la now the Usmans, the Figueiredos. There's been quite a few of them throughout the years. They ride on one sibling's coattail because one sibling makes the company a lot of money, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you get my brother in here?" So we gotta have, it's like the yin and yang. You gotta have the fucking shit side with the good side, otherwise it don't make a full circle. Just how that works.
Yeah, totally agree. I think the only brother combo that I'm actually excited for is the Bond Fiends. Bond Fiend brothers, I think there's potential out of the both of them.
Oh,
maybe one of them is shit, but they both look good in their debuts.
Hey, look, it's gonna happen. One will be decent or good, and the other one is gonna shit the bed. It's how that always fucking works with this. If they both manage to somehow get to the pinnacle of the sport, I will shit a goddamn chicken, a farmer, and a coop to go with it.
Ask the coach. Yeah, ask the Kochi brothers how that fucking works out. Straight off the Contender Series into oblivion.
Look, it's called natural selection for a reason,
right? No, I agree 100% on the Usman call. That dude literally is here because of his brother. I agree on the other side of that fight. I'm not 100% sold on Junior Tafa, but I think that he's got a better chance of coming in based off of his family heritage and his past than Muhammad Usman does, at least. I also agree about fucking Yasmin, dude. That That girl's one of the few fucking lady prospects I've seen recently that genuinely has me fucking excited. I think she's coming in to just kick ass and take names, and her fucking paper's full. So look the fuck out. But what I will say to upset the apple cart just a little bit here is that this week I have got Schrodinger's can tender for my pick, because he is both a can and a contender until such time as Saturday arrives and we see who the fuck he's actually going to be when the bell rings. And that is none other than Semi the Jedi himself, Matthew Selmisberger, because we have seen that dude come in and just be a fucking ninja, and then we have seen that dude come in and seem like he forgot how to tie his own fucking shorts. Like, we have seen both sides of that Forrest Gump motherfucker, and I'm not sure which one we're going to get Saturday. I'm honestly not sure how I'm even going to pick that fight until after weigh-ins and I get a better look at how we're really going to see that I was running type of dude.
I fucking love how you just broke that down, because that was one I wanted to add to the contenders, but I felt the same way, man. It's just like, what really dude are we gonna see show the fuck up? The Alex Morono fight or the fucking last fight you just had?
Right?
Dude, you absolutely fucking nailed that on the head. That is the epitome of a
Schrodinger's can tender, man. That's good shit.
I mean, like, that dude embodies that fucking definition, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We'll see when we get to Saturday, though.
You know, there's quite a few fighters on the fucking UFC roster that are like that.
Yeah, there really are.
Some of them look like they could be world breakers one day, and the next they look like they got them off a park bench outside.
Oh, I fucking appreciate the hell out of you guys' answer. That was a badass way to fucking end that segment. Way to go, Meter. Schrodinger's can tender. Fucking Semi the Jedi. Are we actually going to get the Jedi, or are we getting the Padawan coming back out?
Right, yeah, we'll find out Saturday, hopefully.
Or possibly the youngling that gets killed. Order 66.
Oh, good shit. Good shit. Oh, but that being said, that will bring us to the only segment on this show that requires its own individual disclaimer. So, me. Tapology.com does not in any way, shape, or form endorse, sponsor, or pay the I'm No Joe podcast yet. That being said, Tapology.com does offer you the option to go to their site, make a free account, and join groups of like-minded individuals who make their picks on upcoming fights fantasy style. We've made just such a group. We call it ImNoBookie, all one word, or Group 965, however you find it. It is open to the public. You are more than welcome to join the group and put your picks head-to-head against ours and other folks in the group, and a little segment we condense the fun down into called Tapology with TJ.
Oh, where to start with this one? One, I don't want to go over this one so I can relive the moment over and over and over, just because, well, last weekend was a fucking blast. And absolutely.
Actually, before we get into it, I just want to say, for the record, for anyone who might be unclear, if you're talking to Meter about fights during the podcast, you're going to get notes. You're going to get factual, relevant, current information. If you're talking to Meter 1,000 milligrams deep on edibles out in the wild, you very well might get mixed up information. You better double check that shit before you change your Tapology picks. That's all I'm going to say.
I didn't even get a chance to get there yet, but okay. I'm actually going to do this backwards because, like I said, I don't want to fucking talk about last week's shit yet. So we're going to do things a little backwards this week. We're going to go over breakdown and odds this week. For the most part, as per usual, or what's been relatively normal lately, most everything is a coin flip across the board for this week's UFC Fight Night 223. There are a few exceptions, and I'm going to briefly go over them. Some of them that are really close. When I say really close, they're closer in the exception category. Rafael Estevam and Carlos Candelario. They've got Candelario as a plus 220 underdog. Esteban at a minus 275 favorite. Not bad wide odds, still pretty close to a relative coin flip. Then one that was actually talked about on the contenders section here, Lucindo and Walker Sanchez, Brogan there. They've got Brogan sitting at a plus 225 underdog, and our contender for this week, Lucindo, sitting as a minus 275 favorite. Now, that brings in one other fight that has the widest odds on the card. And to be honest, I'm kind of surprised at this one. It has the widest odds on the card. It's a fucking tentative nobody fight. In the bantamweight division, Ronnie Yaya and Montel Jackson. That is the one with the widest fucking margin on here. They've got Ronnie Yaya coming in at a plus 425 underdog, and Montel Jackson coming in as a minus 600 favorite. You want to make some money this week? Feel free to bet on Yaya. Because to be honest, I think those odds might be a little bit off. But who's to say? Not me. I'm not the bookie. I'm just giving you the odds as I see them. But I think that one may be a little bit off because those little bantamweight guys, that shit goes crazy in those fights. And neither one of those guys are world breakers. So it's debatable on how those odds are. But currently, like I said, Montel Jackson, minus 600 favorite. Ronnie Yaya, plus 425 in the fucking negative. He's not doing well over there being the underdog. But we'll see come Saturday night. But everything else across the board, to include the main event, is pretty much coin flips. We're talking 110s to 210s either way. But main event I will cover just because it is the main event. Sergey Pavlovich, they actually have him as a fucking underdog this week. Not by much, but just a touch. They have him as a plus 140 underdog, and Curtis VsBlaydes sitting as a minus 165. Can't say that I'm surprised at that because Curtis Blades is a fucking hell of a guy, and he's hard to knock out. Very hard to fucking knock out. Look, up until fucking Derek Lewis got a hold of him, nobody was doing that to him. He knows how to avoid punches and get the fights to the ground. Also, I understand why they have the odds this way, and the reason Pavlovich in his last 5 fights has fought less than an entire 1 round of fighting. All of his fights have ended in the first round via knockout in his last 5 fights. Not mad about it. Right now, he's kind of like the Mike Tyson of this fucking division. You're going to get quick knockouts, and it can happen at any moment. But we also haven't seen him taken to the ground yet or have to work off of his back, which is what Curtis Blades is fucking phenomenal at. Possibly one of the best wrestlers in that fucking division, period. So take that with a grain of salt. But like I said, they've got it as a toss-up. Only one really wide margin fight on the card, and that's the Ronnie Yaya Montel Jackson fight. So take that as what it is for this week. Again, the UFC has either been doing a very good job of matchups, or with all of the fuckery that's been going on with betting, odds makers are a little nervous to make wide odds because, they might lose some fucking money. So that's what we got for this week as far as odds are concerned. Now, to go back to last weekend's fuckery. And by fuckery, I mean the greatest time we've had as a podcast ever, period. I'll say it. I'm not gonna lie. I was not worried about last week's picks at all. Thursday, last week, when we had the ImNoJo podcast, I was on the road until 9:30 at night. I made my picks just before I got on the road at about 12:30 in the afternoon. and didn't fucking look at them, didn't check them, didn't do anything with them. I didn't even pull up the fucking where we're in the standings all weekend because I didn't give a shit. However, credit where credit is due. We're gonna call him the backseat fucking king. River Tour, Don, takes the top spot this week for more than one reason. One of those reasons being he was updating picks while we were driving on Thursday. I think he may have updated picks on Friday as well, adjusted some things. And I know damn well for certain, just before we walked into the arena, he was adjusting picks. And we had to warn him that he may be on a short time frame because those picks are about to lock in. So he may have freaked out just a little bit, which is all right. But right before last, just to get those last picks changed, and here's where I'm a little thrown off. Hats off to Don for winning the event this week. Well done, sir. You've gotten yourself out of the shit house. You actually managed to surpass the misses somehow. To be honest, I think what had happened here was she wanted him to have the best weekend possible. So she threw all of her picks, just fucking threw them. She was like, yeah, A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, all the way down. She did the cab method on the little printout test there. And it seemed to work out all right. She still managed a 50%er, which is perfect. But she wanted Don to have a good time. So she just threw all of her picks. Next week, things will be back to normal. Don will be tripping over his dick again. But for this week, you remain king, sir. Well done. Now, with that being said, the rest of us, we did all right. As a whole, we were only one person shy of picking everybody 500 or better. So can't go wrong there. Meter was not far behind Don. Only 15 points off. Same amount of picks correct. The only thing that fucked him was a couple of decisions or a decision
last minute
pick.
change.
The last minute change and a semi-perfect out of Don. That's what got him, was that semi-perfect. So with that, you had myself, or no, after that you had Christian sitting fucking 90 points behind Don. Not bad. And then things started to really fall off because then you had myself and Donna sitting at 375. So a good fucking 130 points behind. Wasn't catching him at that point, but I knew that from the way the beginning of those fucking fights were going. Although I think the one thing that did save me is thank you, throat cuddles. I may have called the wrong type of fucking submission that was going to happen, but I called it in the right round. So, Jalen Robertson, thank you for that second round finish by submission. Saved my ass in the points category this week. Then Dono's tied with me 375. And bringing up the back of the train there was Vinny. But you know what? Whether Vinny tripped over his dick or not, nobody really tripped over their dick last week. Because we all had a great fucking time. And to be honest, I didn't even care about the results of this. I was willing to not even put in picks to go. I didn't care that much last week. Only because we got to live in the moment. And guess what? Don't get me wrong, we talk a lot of shit about this every fucking week, week in and week out. But this was the one week where I decided it really wasn't worth it. Except for Don, because, well, I got to give Don hell because he finally got his shit together. So, But as a whole, though, the picks don't matter. We do this for fun.
Right.
Come join us. We're going to talk shit no matter what. Now, if you would have joined last week and lost your ass, I would not have said shit because this was an exception of a week. So it is what it is. Come join the group. I'm ImNoBookie or group 965 right on Tapology. Hang out with us, make some picks, talk shit, do all the fun stuff. And then at some point down the road, when we decide to get together again for another live event, join us. It's going to be a good time.
Yep.
Guaranteed you'll have a good time. But fuck. To go out on that, what a last fucking weekend, man.
Shit. No shit.
It's too bad
Also,
this weekend they're going to hold up to it.
Right. And for the record, because I am that posthumous asshole, I did make sure I verified myself. We were correct last night in assuming that Bob was most likely stoned and looking at my post, because Breno did not, in fact, drive all the way up to Kansas City to go to the event last weekend. Like Bob seemed to think that he saw him posting about. He did not. He said he wishes he could have. He would have loved to have met us all and come up there, but that's just not a thing that he was able to do.
We'll see. You know, the more I thought about that when he said that last week, I was like, doesn't Breno live in Brazil?
Yes.
Yeah, that would have been a hell of a long reason to go all the way to fucking Kansas
That's
City.
why when he said that, I'm sure if you go back and look at my face on your show last night, when Bob said that, I immediately just went, what? No.
I think Bob must have been high as draft pussy when he was looking at that.
That's what I said. I guarantee he would have posted or said something about it at the very least. And then when I talked to Breno last night, he said, yes, I absolutely would have said something and would have made sure to meet up with you guys, because that would have been awesome. So if the opportunity ever does arise, Breno, you are more than welcome to come fucking hang out with us if you can make it up to a fucking UFC event that we're at. That being said, with this weekend's hangover of a hangover card here, obviously we are not going to force anyone to put their pit rankings on the line for that, so we are just going to give a little bit of a more localized breakdown as we do from time to time here. But as is the case quite often lately, the UFC is not the only game in town. If you have got an itch scratching for some punchy kicky goodness, hang on to your asshole and stock up on Depends, because this weekend is going to blow your colon out. We have got so many fucking cards going on this weekend. I literally don't have time or the ability to go over all of them, but I am going to give you the top. Let's see what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 6 cards that I'll give you just a quick reference for real quick. 5 of them, and then we'll break down the UFC cards. So first and foremost, for those of you lunatics, daywalkers, sun-worshipping lizard folk, however the fuck you want to identify yourselves, for those of you who are awake during the noxious nuclear balls time of day, 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, just a few hours from now, One's Friday Fights 13 kicks off. Most folks will not know any of the names on that card, but if you are just looking for some pure Muay Thai, kickboxing, and just all kinds of crazy Asiatic punchy kicky goodness, there's some kicking off first thing this morning. Now, for the rest of us normal folks who try and consume it during average punchy kicky hours, tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Prime Video 1 on Prime Video 9 kicks off. Thailand versus England. Now, this is another one where a lot of the casual folks are not going to know a lot of names on this card, but I am telling you right now, if you appreciate punchy kicky, if you love yourself some MMA, if you value the ability and the technicality of true martial arts, these 1FC cards are going to get your goat going. That being said, tomorrow night also kicks off at 7:30 p.m. the first of the weird Bellator Hawaii weekend that they have got going over there in the form of Bellator 294 Carmouche versus Bennett 2. As we mentioned earlier in the news segment, there is all sorts of fuckery going on that card, but most folks will at least recognize, I would say, probably half the names on that card. If nothing else, it will be worth your time to click over and see how the Danny Sabatello fight goes, just for the post-fight interviews, regardless of how the fight goes. But Tim Johnson getting back in there in a fucking much-needed fucking situation. And then, of course, we've got the half title fight on the line in the main event, Liz Carmouche opting to try to keep her belt or lose it, even though Deanna Bennett can't fucking win it. And the last time that they fought 2 years ago, Liz easily worked and then submitted Deanna Bennett. It's still something to keep an eye out for tomorrow night. Kicking off late tomorrow evening, though, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central Time. LFA 157, Croton versus Cavalcanti. Another one where, again, not everybody is a UFC caliber household recognizable name, but there is still some great MMA lined up. LFA is one of the main feeder organizations, if you will, where folks who do good over there almost always get themselves a contract in the UFC. So this is another one of those great places to catch themselves some up and coming potential cans and or contenders as well. The last one I'm going to give just a second mention here to. This one I can almost guarantee, unless you are as rabid and hardcore as some of us are, you are not going to know any names on this card, but that does not mean there will not be good MMA on it. Saturday at noon Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern, KSW 81 kicks off for some good Polish punchy kicky if you need to get your grind on early Saturday before the UFC kicks back at it. That being said, the reason we are here, the marquee name for the weekend, UFC Vegas 71, PavlovichVsBlaydes. We are back to the apex for that 25-foot wide octagon, a little bit smaller of an octagon, a little bit smaller of a card, but still some interesting things on this one nonetheless. So, gentlemen, I'll kick it off as we like to around here. On every card, there is one fight, regardless of the shit factor the card has overall, that you want to pay attention to, that you want everyone around you to pay attention to, the one that's got the most likelihood, in your opinion, to be genuinely entertaining, if you will, the "hey, Maul, get in here" fight of the weekend. So I ask you, gentlemen, which one fight on this card isn't getting the love that it deserves, but needs to be watched?
Well, for me, just to be funny real quick, the only fight I would actually suggest to my mom if she was going to watch a fight this weekend is the fucking boxing match of Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. I feel like it's the only solid fight that I really want to see. But if I don't want to pick the low hanging fruit of the main event. So you ask the question of this card. So specifically, let's shine some light the best we can on the UFC here. I gotta say, to me, it's gonna be that Jeremiah Wells and Matt Simmelsberger fight. It hasn't been talked about a lot. Jeremiah Wells is getting older, but he's still a really exciting fighter, and this is gonna be a little bit of a challenge for Matt Simmelsberger. And like you were mentioning earlier when we were going through the contenders segment, what Semi the Jedi are we gonna see? I mean, if it's the one that we've seen before that comes out on fire that we like to see, this is going to be an exciting fight. Could be really back and forth, nice bloody war. Those are the fights I love to fucking see. So anybody that's not too into the UFC would be like, hey, come in here and watch this fight. It would be a good back and forth fight.
Yeah, that could or could not be. Just saying, as previously mentioned. Great, but to be honest, I'm looking forward to watching Bobby Green get back in there, because God knows Bobby comes to swing and bang, and he's got an odd style. And to be honest, the only reason he's not getting it as much of the spotlight as I think he deserves. Unfortunately, everybody's giving it to Jaron Gordon because of Paddy Pimblett. And, well, albeit Jared Gordon arguably won that fight, he still got the L for it, and yet he's still getting the clout because people are talking about Paddy. So here we are. I hope Bobby Green beats the fucking brakes off of him, to be goddamn honest, because I don't think Jared Gordon is that fucking good anyways.
I can absolutely agree with that for damn sure. Like, Jared Gordon, we said going into that fight, was a can that was on fairly par level with Paddy. And we turned out to be right. And in very much the majority of people's opinions, he was the better Can than Patty that evening, despite Patty getting that hometown fucking luxury gift of a W he didn't fucking earn. That being said, though, for me, I'm going to avoid the low-hanging fruit. I left that in the kitchen, but I will say the matchup that I am most looking forward to this weekend is me versus this jar of mild salsa right here, because I have already taken half of it down, and I do intend to finish the rest of it off before the fights actually commence. But in terms of actual fights that I'm looking forward to, the one that I am most excited about was actually mentioned by our brother Slowbake there earlier, Francis Marshall versus William Gomi. That's just a fucking incredible featherweight fucking fight. These are two dudes that are on the fucking come up and just not getting any kind of shine. And Gomi, for sure, being one of the top prospects coming out of France now that MMA is legal in France, finally, this dude has the chance to carry the banner that Ngannou and Cyril Gane both seem to drop on the fucking ground and has been left there. William is coming up to try and grab that fucking flag and put France back on the goddamn map. We know there's going to be some great MMA folks coming out of there. We just don't have any at the moment. And with Francis still wandering in the wind, Cyril licking his wounds after John handed him his fucking ass, Williams got the chance to step up and just grab that spotlight with two hands and fucking run with it. So that's my anticipated fight of the weekend. That's the one that I'd be yelling at folks to watch. So now that being said, that brings us to the other side of that. So if there's one that everybody wants to watch, there's obviously going to be one that is just getting all this hype for no goddamn reason. So I'm curious what you gentlemen think is your overhyped fight of the weekend, the one that they are building up that's just going to shit the bed, and we all know it.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, Muhammad Usman, Junior Tafa. I'm gonna take the low fucking hanging fruit here. I don't care. I do not like Muhammad Usman at all. This is nothing against Junior Tafa. It's just Muhammad Usman, like I said earlier, riding his brother's coattails. Absolute fucking trash. Should not be in the UFC. Here we fucking are.
So for me, I agree with what TJ said, but to go away from that low hanging fruit, I'm gonna say because of how things have gone, the moving the co-main event back, and now we got Bruno Silva and Brad Tavares as our co-main event. If Brad Tavares looks good, it could be a fun fight. But it's obviously overhyped just because of it getting moved up and getting. They could have put a couple of the other fights on this card in that spot instead of moving that one up. But that's the best I can do in my opinion, because I'm not excited for it whatsoever. Bruno Silva's already shown us. I feel like his potential is gone after winning his first few fights and then losing the past couple. Don't see that prospect or contender kind of value in him anymore. And Brad Tavares, hell of a fighter, veteran in the game and shit, but on the back end more so. That's what I would say. A little bit of an overhyped fight because they had it with the people's co-main event beforehand, and now it's the co-main event. And you could have put any fight in that spot whenever you move Song and Ricky Simone back a week.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with both points there. That Usman versus Tafa fight, honestly, the only thing that's got me even the least bit curious out of that fight at all is to see if Junior really can carry any water for that family name. I have no hope coming out of fucking Usman's side of that thing at all. I will say though, I think I'm a little bit out on a ledge here, standing by myself for this one, and I don't care. I don't mind doing that. I've done it time and time again, and I promise you I will continue to if the situation arises. I will say the thing that shocks me a little bit about my pick is that a fellow voice in the MMA news space here, whose name I'm not going to call out because I'm classier than that, actually said the words "with a win she could cement herself as a division staple when referring to Priscilla Cachoeira, who at this point in her career is more known for her reaching behind her head to try and intentionally thumb gouge multiple times and got away with it than any win she has had in her entirety of her run in the UFC. Not to mention poor Karine Silva, who was brought in to be the next lady with all the hype, the female Patty, if you will, and immediately shit the bed. So the fact that I have heard multiple different broadcasts this week talk about that fight, and I actually heard a broadcaster who has in the past said intelligent things before let fall out of their mouth that this could cement Priscilla as a divisional staple. I'm staring at blanking.
Somebody was smoking the crack.
Some people's kids, I tell you. That being said, though, we will turn that one over. So, like we mentioned a couple of times now, unfortunately and fortunately, depending on how you look at it, our original co-main event this weekend has been absconded with, but in a good sense in some ways, because now we get to see it as a 5-round main event kicking out next weekend. But that does leave us with, I'm going to say, awkward co-main event, replacing it in the form of the guy that used to be Brad Tavares versus Bruno Silva. I'm genuinely curious how you boys think this one is going to shake loose and who might be able to walk away with a W from this fucking car crash.
To be honest, I think it's Bruno Silva that gets away with the win here. And I'm gonna do this up based off of really bad MMA math. Really bad fucking MMA math. Bruno Silva's last 2 losses have been to guys at the fucking absolute top of the division. So he's not had a fucking easy fucking go of it. Well, I say absolute top of the division, but 2 really, one's at the top of the division. He lost to Pereira, which fine, current fucking champ. He also got submitted by GM3.
Yes.
GM3 is a perennial fucking long-term name in the UFC at this point. Came out, submitted him, gets a W that way. So he's had 2 tough fights. But to be honest, he took fucking Pereira to decision. That takes a lot. Because obviously, Pereira can get fucking knocked, can knock pretty much anybody out or put anybody away. I mean, he did put fucking Stylebender away at one point. Just saying. Stylebender, of course, did get revenge and then got revenge on his son, but all's fair in love more. But yeah, so, and Brad Tavares hasn't been good in fucking years. He's a shell of his former self. How he's still around, I don't know. So I have to give it to Silva here. And like I said, that's on really bad MMA math, just based on strength of schedule and losses. Both of them are coming off of losses. How this made the co-main event and not Bobby Green and Jared Gordon. God, that feels weird to fucking say that. But how that made the co-main event, I don't fucking know, other than the fact that they like to do shit in weight order. Fuck your weight order. Put the better fights higher towards the top of the card. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I think Silva gets it done. Tavares goes out with another L.
Yeah, I've got to fully agree with TJ on this. As much as I'm on the fence with Bruno Silva too, I fully agree with Brad Tavares just not being there anymore. He just looked horrible in his last few fights. What he was good at a point is definitely not there anymore. Bruno Silva, though, it worries me. That's why I'm just not interested in the fight. It's awful that it's now our co-main event. If Bruno Silva goes out there and smokes Brad Tavares, maybe that will pique my interest, because then we have him bouncing back. Like TJ pointed out, he has lost to some really good guys. So if you bounce back like that, it's at least a name at this point. We know Tavares isn't what he was. So we'll see what is then next for Bruno Silva, but that's how I'm going to ride with it. I think Bruno Silva gets a win. Whether he gets a finish or not, that's the bigger question.
Yeah, I think you're both right on the money here. I got to say, if the UFC was a board game, not even a board game, we'll just say a video game that everyone knows, Brad Tavares would be the Glass Joe of this game. He's done just enough to make his name recognizable, but not enough to actually carry him any further than just being recognizable. And he's historically been one of the first stepping stones right before usually Jared Cannonier to get to the title in that division multiple times now. I do think it's a little odd that coming off of the losses that Bruno Silva is, they're going to give him the Tavares option here. I think there's several other directions they could have went, but I also agree that in being able to take Pereira to a decision, that's something that has not really been easy for anyone to do at this point. So even though that wasn't L officially, that's still a feather in his cap. I do agree. I can't put any faith in Brad Tavares at this point. He's literally just a stepping stone for potential future contenders, in my opinion. And not that I think that Bruno Silva is a potential future contender, but at least that's the path that the UFC seems to be setting him up on and laying out this fight to Tavares. Now, I think that it's somehow managed to slide its way into the co-main event kind of emphasizes that, because like we said, the Bobby Green fight versus Jared Gordon, Ray Charles could have seen that was the obvious choice to go to the fucking co-main event when there was a move on the card. But for whatever reason, Dana, in his infinite fucking wisdom, has decided that no, we're going to put Brad Tavares in the co-main event spot because that'll put butts in seats. So yeah, I absolutely agree with both you guys. I think Bruno Silva does get the W here, but I also agree with Christian. I'm not 100% certain he's got what it takes to put Tavares away either. I have a feeling this might be a very boring 15-minute decision, maybe even the moment where folks could use to go refill their drinks, crank one out, do yourself a fat dab, give the old lady the good ho, whatever you need to do for your own personal concession moment. Co-main event might be a good place to do that. That being said, though, luckily, despite all the fuckery and movement that has been afoot over the last couple days, the main event remains the main event. So, gentlemen, I ask you, the marquee matchup for the weekend. Number 3, Sergey Pavlovich versus number 4, Curtis Razor Blades. Who takes this main event and how do they get it done?
Well, I know who I'd want to take this main event. That's Curtis Blades. I hate Russians, man. I'm not gonna lie. I fucking hate the Russians. But this Ivan Drago of MMA is something fucking frightening, especially after what he did to Tai Tuivasa. And he did it in 47 motherfucking seconds. Just made his face look like ground up hamburger. What the fuck was that? I mean, made you double take at the Derek Lewis fight. When he got the win over Derek Lewis, I was actually questioning that stoppage slightly. It was like, I don't know if that was a good one, but then once we see what he does to Ty, no, Derek was probably hurt. I don't know if he was going to be able to do much. This motherfucker's got some power. But like TJ said earlier on, Curtis Blades probably the best wrestler in the heavyweight division. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes. Obviously, I don't think Curtis can just run out there right at the start of the fight, try to get for a takedown and get it to the ground. That might be difficult. So he's going to have to go through the first 30 seconds to minute onslaught. Can he survive that? Because a lot of dudes haven't. But at the same point, I have not forgotten that Pavlovich lost his debut to Alistair fucking Overeem. So that grappling might really come into play in this fight, and Curtis Blaydes might have a serious chance to make this guy look silly and make this guy look stupid. Yeah, he's got some power behind him, but nowhere near an overall MMA game. That's where I'm riding. That's where I'm hoping. I'm going to probably take in my picks this week Curtis Blaydes getting it. The safe pick is to take Pavlovich from what we've seen. But I genuinely think Curtis is the all-around better fighter because he can stand and fucking trade with guys too. We've seen him get knocked out. But I'm going to ride with Blaydes.
All right, so I'm going to go like this. Be prepared to bend your minds a little bit. In a parallel universe, these two would be named a one Street Jesus, Jorge Masvidal, and another wrestler. Does anybody want to take a gander at where I'm going with this? Go ahead.
Is it going to be Big Ben?
Oh, it is. It's Ben. Now, in this parallel Looniverse is what I'm going to call it. The knee misses. And we get the immediate takedown. Now, snap back to reality here. Sergey and Curtis, I think we're going to see something similar to that. Curtis knows what Sergey is going to do because he's done it the last 5 fucking fights in a row. There's nothing that's going to throw him off there. We know he's coming in to swing and bang, and he's going to try to finish it fast. All Curtis has to do, dodge one punch, takedown, game, set, match, because guaranteed Curtis will hold him on the fucking ground because Curtis is a fucking animal when it comes to grappling. I think you see that number 3 next to Pavlovich's name go back to number 4 and Curtis back to number 3 where he fucking belongs rather than getting leapfrogged there. And I think we see Curtis get his next chance at being a title challenger there, which I would not be mad about because Curtis and Jones, something about that sounds fucking fantastic to me. But I really do see Curtis getting the win here, and I think he's going to dominate because of grappling. I don't even think he's got to worry the 50 seconds that Sergey usually finishes his fights in lately. All he's going to do is dodge a couple punches and fucking put him on his back. That wrestling game will come heavily into play this weekend. Mark my fucking words. We might not see a finish, or we'll see him get ground and pounded out by Curtis Blaydes probably around the 2nd or 3rd round once he's gotten all the fight out of Pavlovich from Russell fucking the shit out of him for a little bit. But I don't think Pavlovich gets this unless he catches Curtis. And if Pavlovich is smart, he might take a little book out of fucking Derek Lewis's, or a page out of Derek Lewis's book. Jesus Christ, I'm not even fucking high today and I can't talk. No, there you go. Secondhand. It's all about the day of the week. That's what that is, or the month.
See, told you. So first and foremost, so I've got to say, as the native Chicagoan on the panel, it pains me to be the only one here not pulling for Curtis Blaydes.
Nobody said I was pulling for him. I was just calling the fight how it went.
Calling for him. I won't say pulling for him. Calling for him. I'll put it that way. I am very much in a similar mindset to TJ here, in that this is already giving me flashbacks of a different fight, but I'm not thinking quite so far back as to Jorge and Ben. I'm thinking a little more recently back in terms of one Black Beast versus Curtis Blaydes, in another very similar opportunity, and a big striker with a very large, I would say Lamborghini sized hole in his game that used to be or should be grappling and wrestling. And Curtis came in seemingly intelligently, trying to avoid the big strikes and put that wrestling to work. And the Black Beast did not have to leave the ground and use his knee to make a connection. He literally gave him the old Popeye wind up, hi-ya, fucking met him right in the bread maker, and it shut that fucking situation completely down. And if you look at how Sergey caught Tai Tuivasa, the first punch that wobbled Tai was almost exactly the same punch that Derek Lewis landed on Curtis Blaydes that sent him stiff arming onto the Kansas, chattering on his fucking gum shield. And then you listen to what Curtis Blaydes was saying in the media day. Look, I like Curtis Blaydes. That dude, I find him very capable, and he's a fairly enjoyable dude on the microphone for the most part. But for whatever reason, he has gotten high on his own supply to such an extent that he even said the words, "When I win this fight, I will sit out until they give me the title shot." If that's the mindset you're in, A, you are clearly already overlooking the fight that is in front of you, and we have seen how bad that plays out. But B, you're not even thinking of the implications of potentially losing this fight, because you're not even game planning for the person standing in front of you. You're thinking why you didn't already get the John Jones matchup. That combination is just bad news bears, in my opinion. I would love to see Curtis go out there and just wrestle fuck Ivan down to the ground, beat the shit out of him, stand up and go, "John Jones, where you at, boy?" Like, I would be so tickled. But I have a feeling, based on what we've seen and what we have heard, Curtis is still in his own head a little bit, and against that giant, crazy fucking Russian, that's a bad place to be. And we have seen that not paying enough attention to a dude with a big uppercut leads to Curtis going to sleep, and that is almost exactly what I see coming into this weekend, is Curtis in his own head, not paying enough attention to a dude with a gigantic, dangerous uppercut. If lightning strikes twice, it might be the last chance Curtis will ever get to even be in a conversation with the word title in it. I think the Rusky gets it done, man. I think Curtis is too in his own shit. I think the Rusky's going to catch him with one, and we're going to see stiff leg fucking Blaydes on the ground Saturday night. That being said, though, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm not afraid to be wrong. We're obviously not fucking prognosticators. We can't see the fucking future. The only way to find out how these fights are actually going to play out is to tune in this weekend. Keep an eye out for some live shorts, maybe a live post or two, but that's all we've got for this particular episode. I want to thank each and every one of you, whether you're here live Thursday nights, 9:30-ish Central Standard Time on youtube.com/ImNoJoe to catch us in the video format in all of its glory, watching it on a replay, or catching this in the all audio format a week after we go live on anchor.fm/ImNoJoe, your podcast consumption platform of choice. Either way, we appreciate you just the same. If you like what we get up to around here, please make sure you are subscribed wherever you are consuming this episode. If you really like us, tell a friend, helps us grow the show. If you like us more than that, which I don't know how the fuck you could, but if you do, Patreon.com/ImNoJoe is the best way to show us. For as little as $1 a month, you get your name at the end of every single broadcast on this channel as a thank you, and you get access to unaired and literally unairable content, things that we legally have to keep behind a paywall and make sure you are 18 or over to even be able to witness with your peepers. That being said, on the other side of things, if you don't like what we get up to around here, first and foremost, what the fuck are you still doing this deep into a podcast you don't enjoy? Give us a thumbs down and then go fuck yourself. We won't even dispute it. But this is not the end. Just because the show is wrapping up doesn't mean things are over, because tomorrow morning and pretty much every Friday morning, there is something worth talking about. That fella right over there and his counterpart, Slow Bake and Vin Dog the Booty Hog, put on their podcast, the Slow Bake and Contemplate podcast, over there on Spreaker.com. Links down in the description for that podcast and both of those gentlemen's social medias, just the same, as well as links to the ImNoJoe Discord, where there is a Slow Bake and Contemplate channel, so you can come over and talk with all of us there as well.
Appreciate it like always, brother. Good fucking job not having your mind on concentrates this week. The shit doesn't fucking stop. As always, you gotta fucking tune in every Wednesday around 9 o'clock. Just a little before we do this show, right? You fucking make sure you tune in to Golf Tea Vapes on the YouTube channel. Same as fucking on here, Golf Tea Vapes. Every fucking Wednesday. Brothers just chill. Show everybody some cool shit about the vapes, make fucking recipes, have a good time. Make sure you tune in, you give the brother some love. And mad motherfucking love to your brother again, because last weekend wouldn't have been possible without him. Can't fucking thank you enough. It was badass to finally get to meet you. It was a fucking fantastic weekend.
Fuck yeah. Last weekend, totally fucking worth it. Again, thanks, man. But you want to know what the meter gets into other than punchy kicky things? You can go right down below. Click on the link. Linktree/the meter does many things. That'll take you to all of the links that the meter does. Again, that's Linktree/the meter does many things. I'll click on it, find out all of the many things that the meter does.
Thank you very much, sir. Always appreciate it. That being said, that is all we have got for this particular episode. So once again, thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in, and fuck you for those of you who didn't. We're having fun without you. So that being said, that's all we've got for this particular episode. Remember, boys and girls, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything. Unless it's us not getting together in Kansas City. That shit was fun. You guys missed it.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times.